Hi, today's topic is corporate raiders and balance sheets. Have you ever wondered what drives or triggers some people to do what they do, and why they seem to choose the vulnerable? Well, there are a few possibilities that we should consider. Greed, market domination, superior knowledge, to name a few. Balance sheets can tell us a lot about any business. So let's show you what they reveal. And there are two very distinct areas that hold substantial indicators that triggers a response from those who can decipher the indicators. Balance sheet valuation equation is assets minus liabilities equals equity or value. There are some commentaries that suggest focusing on inventories and accounts receivable are the way to unlock treasures in your balance sheet. This is a micro view. However, I put it more bluntly. If accounts receivable are too high and stock levels are too high, it is a product of bad management. Micro adjustments do not produce treasures or great savings. Let me say from the outset that I do not support balance sheet valuations. However, they are signposts or indicators to the directions that current management have taken in the past. I do not support micro measures in most cases. Therefore, when we talk about treasures, they have to be macro in size and value. So let's look at the asset side, and particularly the property assets and where they are located. Property assets are generally listed at historic values, which means they can be shown well below market value. And this is where there can be substantial advantages to promote acquisition or seizure. Then, even though current management may be aware of current values, they may not be aware of zoning changes that can impact values greatly, or adjoining owners' desire to acquire the neighbouring land. I guess most can recall the plot depicted in the film Pretty Woman, where the main star was a corporate raider named Edward Lewis, and the target was a shipbuilding company. The raider was able to get their next shipbuilding contract tied up in government appropriations to allow time to take over the company, and made it clear he was going to break up the company and sell off all the assets, which got turned around in this fairy tale story. It is my belief that the only thing of great value in this company was the prime waterfront land holdings. Nothing else could pay for his entourage. The goodwill value of this company would be limited because of its single source revenue streams and specialty equipment. Oh, by the way, shipbuilding companies have many issues. Firstly, they are tied to their location, and fixed costs can get out of hand, namely the rent and taxes they have to pay on land holdings. Governments and councils try to charge rates on the low water mark instead of the high water mark, and they will not consider king tides. Furthermore, the specialty equipment such as slipways are extremely expensive, but they cannot be resold, and salvage is out of the question. Next, we will look at the liability side of the balance sheet, which can indicate the type of management and the directions taken over recent years. If debt is at a level that is restricting abilities to take up opportunities, then the company will be in stagnation mode. When looking at liabilities, we must consider all forms of debt, including preference shares, and we must know the face value, the interest rates, and any defaults that may have occurred. Face value of debts can change overnight, and it is a strong indication that management have not balanced their short and long run scenarios. If refinancing is imminent or pressing, and the debt level ratios are high and refinancing is not an option, then the company is highly actionable, and any offer at or below market may be an acceptable form of action because it is immediate, whereas debt refinancing can take many months. According to the balance sheet on your screen, debt levels are at 75%, which means they will find it impossible to borrow from Australian banks. There is an old saying that is now more applicable than ever. To get money from banks, you must be 80 years of age, accompanied by both parents. One of the last concepts that should be grasped is that of debt, which comes in many forms, from loans, true and created, preference shares, lease liabilities, guarantees, warranties. Most believe that when you buy a public company, you take over its debt, but this is not always the case. See the illustration on your screen. Which of these companies is worth more, A or B? Now careful, look at what you are buying or acquiring. Both businesses have the same value. You will not be buying their debt. You will come with cash or you will borrow to finance the acquisition. Debt belongs to the party that borrowed it. Whenever you buy a business, ensure that no legal, taxation or pending liabilities are transferred. This brings us to superior knowledge, and this comes about in many forms. It's either about pursuing certain properties that companies hold and are in the way, and the corporate raiders want the property holdings. So they disguise themselves as takeover merchants, but their primary aim is to get control of the greatest asset, namely property, and disband operations and sell off the plant and equipment. But they know how to read balance sheets and identify current values versus historic values. Using the balance sheet on your screen, if the current value of land and buildings is now 10 million and not the 2 million as shown, all management have to do is have the property assets revalued and secure more funding. There are less constraints on demolishers, yet massive constraints on developers. Getting approval from City Hall to erect buildings, plans, engineer reports, design, zoning, backlash from residents, or divide the land and have to wait on surveyors' plans, council applications, adjoining owner issues and boundary encroachments. Corporate Raiders' motto is, it's better to destroy than build. Buybacks. Corporate raiders can come in many sources. Anytime management undertakes share buybacks, it's a sure sign they know something you don't. In other words, they possess superior knowledge. They may be aware of impending contracts that will bolster the value of the share. They may have some new technologies by their own acquisitions or by government or other parties. They may be aware of beneficial rezoning. And any time company management pursue buybacks, it's another clear sign that they do not work on behalf of shareholders. It is them versus us mentality. Public companies belong to the shareholders, but when management decide that they want the shares instead of the shareholders, there is a massive conflict of interest. Management are employed to run the company profitably on behalf of the shareholders. Yet this is rarely done, and whenever management choose to incur debt rather than shareholder funding, it is one of the last bastions of ability to increase shareholder returns before they go broke. There are only two ways to put growth into a company, and they are to create growth or buy it. There are no other ways. Basically, 2/3 of public companies are maxed out. Debt levels are extremely high. That concludes today's presentation. I hope you get my book soon, or your copy. Thanks for watching.